My family humiliated me, now they want my help. I never thought I'd have to cut off my own family, but they gave me no choice. Growing up, I was always the outsider, the afterthought. My parents had 3 kids. My older brother Jake, 32M, my younger sister Emily, 27F, and me, Alex, 30M. Jake was the golden child, Emily was the sweet baby, and me, I was just there. The reliable, responsible, overlooked middle kid. It wasn't outright abuse. It was the slow, subtle kind of neglect that makes you wonder if you're just imagining things. Small things, like Jake getting the newest gaming console every Christmas while I got socks. Emily throwing tantrums and getting whatever she wanted while I was told to be the bigger person. My achievements barely getting a nod while my siblings were showered with praise for the bare minimum. It only got worse as we got older. Jake coasted through life with my parents' financial support. They covered his college tuition, helped him buy his first car, even gave him the down payment for his house. Emily wasn't much different. They paid for her wedding, helped her husband start a business, and acted like it was their personal mission to make sure she never struggled. Me? I was on my own. When I graduated high school, my parents told me they couldn't afford to help me with college. Too many expenses. I had to take out loans and work my ass off to get my degree. When I needed help buying my first car, they said, "You're an adult now, figure it out." When I was struggling to afford rent after college, they told me, "That's just life." I should have cut ties years ago. But some part of me kept hoping they'd finally see me, that they'd finally treat me the way they treated Jake and Emily. That hope died at Emily's wedding. I was excited when she got engaged. Despite everything, I wanted to be there for her. She asked me to be in the wedding party, and for a second I thought maybe things were changing. Maybe this was my chance to finally be included. Then came the seating arrangements. At the rehearsal dinner, I noticed the seating chart. My parents were at the front table with Emily and her in-laws. Jake and his wife were at another table with close family. My name? All the way in the back, with distant relatives and plus ones. I brushed it off. Maybe it was just a mistake. But then the wedding day came. Jake was given a special role during the ceremony, an honorary toast to the couple. Emily's in-laws got a heartfelt speech from my parents. Even her husband's cousins got recognized. Me? Nothing. Not a mention, not a thank you, not even an acknowledgement. I might as well have been a stranger off the street. That was the moment I realized. I was never part of this family, not really. After the wedding, I went low contact. I stopped reaching out, stopped answering their calls, focused on my own life, and for the first time, I felt free. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from my mother. She didn't ask how I was, didn't apologize. Instead, she went straight to the point. "Jake's in trouble, we need your help." I almost laughed. Turns out my golden child brother made some very bad financial decisions. He and his wife racked up an insane amount of debt, credit cards, loans, even gambling. Now, they were on the verge of losing their house. "And?" I said. My mother hesitated. "Well, we were hoping you could help." I blinked. "Help? How?" "You have a good job now, right?" she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "You're doing well, we thought maybe you could, help Jake get back on his feet." I swear I almost dropped my phone from laughing. "You want me to bail out Jake?" "It's not bailing him out," she said quickly. "It's family helping family." "You mean like how you helped me when I was struggling?" Silence. Then she tried to backpedal. "That was different. You were always independent. Jake just needs support right now." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "Let me get this straight. When I needed help, you told me to figure it out. But now that Jake's screwed up, suddenly family helps family? Don't be like that," she said, a little sharper now. "He's your brother." "No," I said firmly. "He's your son, and he's your problem." She spluttered, trying to find something to say. I didn't wait. I ended the call. 5 minutes later, Jake texted me, "Dude, you're really not going to help? After everything?" I stared at my screen. After everything? Everything like watching them hand him money while I struggled? Everything like being treated like a second-class family member for 30 years? Yeah, after everything, I wasn't going to lift a damn finger. And for the first time, I felt nothing but satisfaction. Jake didn't stop at one text. Over the next few hours, he sent message after message, each one more desperate than the last. At first, it was guilt-tripping, stuff like, I'd help you if the situation were reversed, and you don't turn your back on family. Then came the manipulation. Mum and Dad are really upset. Do you want to be the reason they're stressed? Finally, when none of that worked, he went straight to being an asshole. I always knew you were jealous of me. Jealous? I stared at the message for a moment, then exhaled slowly. It was funny, in a sad kind of way. Jake had spent his entire life getting everything handed to him, never having to work for a damn thing, and he genuinely thought I wanted to trade places with him. I typed out my response. Jealous of what? Living off mum and dad? Never taking responsibility for your own life? Blowing all your money and expecting other people to fix it? Yeah, sounds like something to be envious of. I hit send and blocked his number. That should have been the end of it, but of course my parents weren't going to let it go. The next day, my mother showed up at my apartment. I was honestly shocked to see her. She had never once come over before. Not when I moved in, not when I got my first big promotion, not when I was struggling, but now that Jake needed help, she was suddenly at my doorstep. I didn't invite her in, I just stood there, blocking the doorway. She sighed like I was already exhausting her. Look, I understand you're upset, but this is serious. Your brother could lose his house. That's not my problem. She pressed her lips together. You don't mean that. I do. He's family, Alex. That never seemed to matter when I was the one who needed support. Her eyes narrowed just slightly, then, as if flipping a switch, she softened her voice, trying to sound reasonable. We just don't want to see him struggle. I know we didn't always do things right, but I cut her off. Stop, just stop. She blinked. I spent my whole life being treated like I didn't matter. I worked my ass off while you handed everything to Jake and Emily, and now that he's finally dealing with consequences, you expect me to fix it? She shifted on her feet. We thought you'd understand. You're the responsible one. I let out a sharp laugh. Oh, so now that benefits you? I'm responsible? Before, I was just the one who didn't need help, right? Don't twist my words, she snapped. I don't have to. I know exactly what they mean. She exhaled sharply. So that's it? You're just going to turn your back on us? No, you turned your back on me. A long time ago. She stared at me for a long time, like she was trying to figure out some way to guilt me into changing my mind. But there was nothing left to say. When she finally spoke, her voice was cold. I hope you don't regret this. I smiled. I won't. Then I closed the door in her face. She must have gone straight home and told Jake and my dad what happened because later that night, I got an email from my father. Unlike my mother's attempts to guilt-trip me, his message was short and to the point. You are making a huge mistake. Family sticks together. If you abandon us now, don't expect to come back when you need something. I stared at the email for a second, then typed back, When have I ever needed anything from you? I didn't get a response. The next few days were blissfully quiet. No texts, no calls, nothing. I thought maybe they had finally accepted that I wasn't going to cave, that I was done being the family's afterthought, until they needed something from me. Then I got a call from Emily. I almost didn't pick up. I figured she was going to yell at me, too, tell me I was being unfair. But when I answered, her voice was quiet. Hey, she said, can we talk? I hesitated. Depends. If this is about Jake, it's not. She paused. Okay, maybe it is, but not in the way you think. That was enough to make me curious. All right, I said. Go ahead. Emily took a deep breath. I just wanted to say, I get it. I frowned. What? She let out a small, humorless laugh. I get why you're done with them. I know I haven't been the best sister. I went along with the way they treated you because it was easier. But you were right. They never treated you fairly. I didn't say anything. I just waited. She sighed. And now that they're turning on me, I finally see it. That caught my attention. Turning on you? Yeah. See, the thing is, they want me to help Jake too. They expect me to cover whatever you won't. I raised an eyebrow. And I told them no. That actually surprised me. Seriously? Yeah. She sounded tired. I have my own life, my own family to worry about. I told them that and they flipped. Mum said I was being ungrateful. Dad said I was disappointing them. Sound familiar? It did. For the first time in a long time, I felt something toward Emily that wasn't just mild indifference. I guess they finally realized they can't just rely on me, I said. Yeah. She let out a slow breath. I just wanted to tell you that I don't blame you for cutting them off. I get it now. I thought about that for a second. Then I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Good, I said. Emily didn't try to justify anything, didn't ask me to reconsider. She just said, "Take care of yourself, Alex," and hung up. I sat there for a long time after that, thinking, maybe Emily really had changed. Maybe she hadn't. But that wasn't my problem. For once in my life, my problems were mine alone, and I wouldn't have it any other way. A week passed, and I thought they had finally given up. No calls, no texts, nothing. It was the quietest my phone had been in years. I won't lie, it felt good, peaceful, like I could finally breathe without waiting for the next demand, the next guilt trip. Then my dad showed up at my job. I was in the middle of a meeting when I got a text from the receptionist. "There's a man here asking for you. Says he's your dad. Should I tell him you're busy?" The fact that he even knew where I worked was hilarious. He had never visited before. Not when I got hired, not when I got my first promotion, not when I was struggling to make ends meet after college. But now that Jake was in trouble, suddenly he cared enough to show up in person. I took my time wrapping up my meeting before heading downstairs. He was standing near the front desk, arms crossed, shifting his weight like he was already annoyed with me, like I was the one wasting his time. "You really gonna do this?" he said the second I walked up. No greeting, no pretense, just straight to the guilt. "Ignore your own family when we need you the most?" "I'm at work," I said. "This isn't the place for this." "Then when is?" I glanced at the receptionist, who was pretending to be busy, but I could tell she was listening. I wasn't about to put on a show for my coworkers, so I motioned for him to follow me outside. We stepped out onto the sidewalk, the midday heat pressing down on us. He turned to me, already shaking his head like I'd personally let him down. "So this is it? You're just going to turn your back on us?" "What do you want, Dad?" "You know exactly what I want," he snapped. "Jake is drowning, and you're just sitting back and watching? He's going to lose everything." I shrugged. Should have thought about that before spending money he did. He made some mistakes. Mistakes? I almost laughed. Dad, he blew through thousands. He didn't just mess up, he was reckless. And now that reality is kicking his ass, you think I should step in? He gave me this look, the same one he always gave me when I refused to fall in line, like I was being difficult on purpose. "He's your brother," he said, as if that was supposed to mean something. "He's an adult," I shot back. "He can deal with his own problems." "He's family, Alex. Family sticks together. Did that apply when I needed help?" He frowned. "That was different." "How?" "You always figured things out. You didn't need us like Jake does." I exhaled slowly, trying to stay calm. "No, Dad, you just didn't care about whether I needed you or not. You decided I was fine on my own, so you didn't bother." He had no response to that. Instead, he shifted tactics. "Your mother is upset about this, you know." "I'm sure she is. She's been crying for days. She doesn't understand why you're doing this." "Then maybe you should explain it to her. She says she doesn't even recognize you anymore." That almost made me laugh. She never knew me in the first place. He ran a hand over his face. "You're really okay with this? With letting your brother fail?" I nodded. "Yeah, I really am." He stared at me, like he was waiting for me to change my mind, like I'd suddenly say, "You know what, Dad? You're right. Let me just throw away my time and money to clean up Jake's mess." But I didn't say that. Instead, I asked, "When have I ever come to you for help?" Silence. I waited. Nothing. That was all I needed to hear. After a long pause, he muttered, "You're a disappointment," and walked off. I watched him go, waiting to feel something. Anger, sadness, regret, but there was nothing. Just a quiet, steady calm. Later that night, I got an email from him. I didn't even open it right away. I already knew what it was. One last attempt to guilt me into submission. When I finally read it, it was exactly what I expected. "You are making a huge mistake. Family sticks together. If you abandon us now, don't expect to come back when you need something." I leaned back in my chair, debating whether to even bother responding. Then I typed out one sentence. "When have I ever needed anything from you?" I hit send and closed my laptop. No response. That was the last time I heard from my dad. Jake didn't try again either, at least not directly. He went crying to extended family, spinning some story about how I had turned my back on them. A few relatives reached out, trying to convince me to reconsider. But I shut it down quickly. It was funny how none of them had been around when I was struggling. None of them had offered help when I was barely scraping by. But now that Jake needed something, suddenly they cared about family. I wasn't playing that game. Emily texted me a few days later. "Dad is telling everyone you abandoned us. Just thought you should know." I stared at the message for a moment, then replied, "Let him. I don't care." And for the first time in my life, I actually meant it. Weeks passed, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. No more guilt trips, no more being the family's backup plan, no more waiting for them to act like I mattered. It was like cutting off a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying. At first, I expected them to keep trying. I thought maybe my mother would show up again, or Jake would send some long-winded email about how I was ruining our family, but nothing happened. Total silence. It was almost disappointing. I had spent my entire life chasing after scraps of their attention, and now that I was done, they couldn't even be bothered to fight for me. But then Emily called. She never reached out unless she needed something, so I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, she sent a text. "I know you don't want to hear from me, but you should know what's happening." I ignored it. An hour later, another message popped up. "Jake lost the house. Mum and Dad are devastated." I sat there for a minute, rereading the words, waiting for something. Satisfaction, maybe? Vindication? But all I felt was mild curiosity. "Okay," I replied. Emily must have been expecting more because she immediately followed up. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" "What else is there?" "I don't know, I just thought you'd want to know." I didn't, not really. Jake losing the house wasn't some great moment of karma. It was just inevitable. He had spent his entire life relying on everyone else to clean up his messes, and for once, nobody did. He had to face what it was like to actually fail. But Emily wasn't done. "Dad's health isn't great. This has been really hard on them." There it was, the real reason she had reached out. It wasn't about Jake. It was about Mum and Dad. The same parents who had ignored me my whole life, who had only acknowledged me when it benefited them. I stared at the message for a while, then typed back, "I hope he gets better, but that's not my problem." Emily didn't reply after that. I figured that was the end of it. But a week later, I got an email from my mother. The subject line just said, "Please read." Against my better judgment, I opened it. "Alex, I know you're upset, and I know we didn't always do things right, but this has gone too far. Your father isn't doing well, and we don't know how much stress he can handle. We've all made mistakes, but we're still family. Please, let's fix this before it's too late." I sat back in my chair, rubbing a hand over my face. Not once did she apologize. Not once did she acknowledge why I had walked away. It was just another attempt to pull me back in, to make me feel obligated. I didn't bother responding. A few days later, Emily called again. This time I answered. She sighed into the phone. "They want you to visit." "That's not happening. They think if we all just talk, we can work things out." "There's nothing to work out," she hesitated. "Look, I get why you're done with Jake, and I get why you're mad at Mum and Dad, but they're still our parents." I let out a short breath. "Emily, do you actually want me back in the family, or do you just not want to be the only bad kid now?" She didn't answer right away. "Because from where I'm standing, you only started caring once they turned on you too. Funny how that works." "That's not fair," she said quietly. "No. What's not fair is how they treated me my whole life and only now want me around because they have nothing left." She sighed. "So that's it? You're just never going to talk to them again?" "That's exactly it." Another pause. "I don't know if I could do that." "Then don't." She didn't seem to know what to say after that. I could hear the conflict in her silence, the part of her that wanted to agree with me, but couldn't quite let go. "Take care, Emily." I hung up. That was months ago. Since then, I haven't heard from any of them. No calls, no emails, nothing. Maybe they finally realized I wasn't coming back. Or maybe they were too busy dealing with their own mess to worry about me. Either way, I don't care. For the first time in my life, I'm free, and I wouldn't change a damn thing.